Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Adebowale Hassan. I'll be presenting to you about performance in web application. In this presentation, we'll look into what web performance is in web application, how performance is being impacted by users, during web performance, and we can't do justice to this presentation without talking about the critical render part. Is actually how your page gets loaded. Then we look into how to optimize for critical render part and the benefit of good performance. Yes, I will have heard about what performance is in different field of life. And, I'm pretty sure you'll have heard this common acronym KPI, that's the key performance index. But in this presentation, I would like to explain what web performance is, and it's the objective measurement and perceived user experience of a website or application. When we mean web performance, we mean how fast the content of a web application or website gets loaded to the user, and when it becomes interactive. There are a number of things that affect web performance. So when we look at my screen, you will see that I highlighted some of the things that is likely to affect the performance of your web application or website. And the image size and file size can affect the performance of your page. If you have a very large image size or file size to load to your user, it's likely to affect the performance of your site compared to when you have a smaller image size or file size to download to your user. Then mobile optimization. So you don't expect to load the same content you are loading for a desktop view to a mobile view, because you expect a wider screen and you expect a wider image, maybe for to ensure that your image gets displayed well. Then when you are using CMS, so you tend to install a lot of plugins. So these plugins can adversely affect the performance of your site if they are not used judiciously. Because if you start just adding plugin for adding sake, so you are trying to affect the performance of your web application. Then the HTTP request too is another thing to note. So the number of requests your page has to make is another thing that will affect how fast your page gets loaded. So if, as much as possible, you can try to reduce the number of HTTP requests. For example, you might need to, if you are using, for example, different style sheets to style your page, if as much as possible, you can try to combine more than a style sheet together so that you reduce the number of the requests you are making to get your page loaded. Same thing for JavaScript. So performance, passive performance. So every user of your web application or website, we have something to say about their experience, about their visit to your website. So this is very important because your users are not very much concerned about how good or your functions are. It's the experience they have with the use of your solution that will speak more about your solutions to your customer. Sometimes you might have to load some content that will require your customers or users to wait. You don't just keep them waiting without them knowing what is going on. So for example, now you might need to load a large file or perform an action that will take time on your web application or website. So by the time you let them know what's going on by using the progress bar to show them the progress of activity going on in the background, you don't make them wait and thinking that something is broken. So you let them know that actually we are trying to get them the content by using maybe a navigation bar or you use a loader. So that's when you have to do things synchronously. But when you have to do things synchronously, so that's where the real work is, and that speaks about how performant your site is and how things how well you have prepared your user to your code to be presented to your user, because this is actually what everybody will start saying about their code. And I'm very sure that nobody wants to come back to a site that takes up to a minute to load. So every user wants to say, okay, I have visited this site and maybe you want to make a purchase. You can do your purchase in the fastest possible time. You don't have to wait for some of the content to load. So the developer has a lot of work to do in this part to ensure that the user are not just waiting or you are not wasting the user's time. So the measuring web performance. So there are a number of tools involved in measuring the actual and perceived speed of an application. So optimizing where possible and then monitoring the performance to ensure that what we have optimized stay optimized. This involves a number of metrics or measurable indicators. So when writing code for the web, there are a large number of web APIs available to allow you to create your own performance measuring tool. So this is where the real work is for a developer. So when we mean perceived performance, this is what your user perceives. But how do you control what they perceive? This is when you are able to use your tools very well. So you can judge yourself before others judge you. And we'll be looking into some of the tools that you can use to do that. To measure client-side web performance, including the amount of time needed to unload the previous page. So, how long domain looks up to, the total time spent is between the window loader and more. So there are a number of tools that you can use to test the performance of your page or your web application. So there, for example, the navigation timing API you can see on my screen shows how long it takes for a previous page to unload and the next page to load and things like that. These are the benefits of these tools that you can use to test the performance of your website before anyone tests it. That's before even you are able to deploy your app live. So you can as well know what your user will perceive by using some of these tools. You can use user timing API to then resource timing API. So this assists a lot to get yourself ready for your user. Tools and metrics. There are a number of different tools available to help you to improve performance. This can generally be classified into two categories. There are tools that tell you about the performance and indicates the areas where you can improve the performance of your page. And there are tools too that can help you to optimize your page so that you have a very performant website. So tools that indicate or measure performance, such as page speed insights or Firefox network monitor and performance monitor. So yes, you can as well go online. Anyone can do this to check the performance of any website. You can just type any URL to when you visit page speed.web.dev. So you get the insight of any page. So you actually want to know some of the insights about the performance of your page. You can type it to Google, or if you know the URL page speed.web.dev, then any website you'll be able to get how well the performance is. Then there are a number of tools that help you to minimize some of your scripts. So for example, to remove the white spaces on your code and make the file smaller so that you don't have to load large files that will in turn affect the performance of your page and reduce the user in turn reduce the user experience or has a bad effect on that. So like I said in the previous slides, so you can as well type, go to any browser and then type pagespeed.web.dev, then it's going to load a page where you can enter a URL. This is, as you can see on my screen, this is the performance of the website dev.mozilla.org. So you can as well do that for any site. Maybe you finish working on a site, on the project now, you can actually type the domain and the URL and test the performance by yourself. Then everyone can try that. You can as well do that for any app. Then you can see the performance. You can see how poor some of the performance are. This 96 is a very good score for this particular site. So it doesn't take too long for the content to get through, and that's why it's receiving this such high rating. So the network tool is another thing. So every modern browser has this tool. When you press F12, for example, in Chrome, in Firefox, in your Edge browser, it's going to show the dev tool where there's a network tab that will show you how each of the content on the page has get loaded. So later in this presentation, we look into how. So, can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Hanson. Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Sorry, it's my network. I'm sorry. So I believe you got the part where, or my previous slide that I mentioned something about the network too. Hello. Hello.
Yes, we are with you, sir.
Can you still see my screen? And
Yes.
did you
Network
get the
tools.
part while I said something about the network too?
No, it actually went off, but now you are better.
Let me say something about that again. So I said every modern browser has this network tool and can assist you to know how well your page gets loaded to your user. So if you visit any site via your browser, the modern browser, for example, Firefox, Chrome, Edge, and you press F12, it's going to load the developer tool that has a menu, the network menu. So when you click on the network menu, you'll be able to see how each of the contents that in turn gets loaded, and the sequence of them being loaded and how fast they get loaded. If you can see, as you can see on my screen here, look at the first thing that gets loaded. That's the document.html. It's the first thing that gets loaded when your page gets loaded. And you can see the time it gets loaded. That's 204 milliseconds. Then you can see other things get loaded after that. So you can see the next thing that gets loaded is the styles sheet. Then we have the script and images. So you can, if you know this very well, you can use it to like improve the performance of your web application. So let's talk about the critical render part. So the critical render part is the sequence of steps the browser goes through to convert the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript into pixels on the screen. Optimizing the critical render part improves render performance. The critical render part includes the document object model, the CSS object model, that's the CSS form, and render tree and layout. As you can see on my screen, whenever you make a request to a particular resource, what gets loaded initially, the first thing that gets loaded is the HTML, that in turn creates what we call the document object model. So your HTML gets loaded and creates the document object model. Then after the HTML gets loaded, then the next thing to get loaded is the CSS. So the CSS creates the CSS object model, that's the CSS form. So the next thing that gets loaded, and this is where we have to be very careful, because JavaScript is referred to as render blocking. So and it's usually a very good practice to include the JavaScript at the before the closing body tag, because if you load the JavaScript from the head region of your HTML, if there's anything that will get executed, it's going to like block the rendering or stop the rendering of the page until the action gets executed and actually gets completed. So you should be careful on how to use JavaScript on your page, except in cases like maybe you need logo analytics and some of the analysis tips. So, but even that, with that, you have to be careful on how to use JavaScript on your page, because it actually blocks the rendering of your page. So because JavaScript can as well modify the document object model and CSS form. So then your render tree gets formed, then the layout of your page too. Then after the layout is formed, then the painting of the page starts. So if you use the network tool, you can use that to trace when the first paint of your screen happens, of your content happens. So it's a very good concept. It's a very good thing to understand this critical render part, because it's actually where the rework is and how you can control the performance of your web application or website. So optimizing for critical render part. So the number of tips that help to optimize your web app or website. Then one of them is to minimize the number of critical resources by defining their download, marking them as async, or eliminating them altogether. So this concept deals with you loading what you need. So you don't have to load all your scripts when your page is being loaded. So if you are able to split your code in such a way that you only load what is necessary, you will save a lot of time, so that you improve the performance of your page and you actually get your page interactive in the shortest possible time, instead of you loading every content, even what the user does not need then. So this is a performance tip. Then the other thing is to optimize the number of requests required along with the file size of each request. So like I said earlier, so you can actually minimize the number of requests your page has to make by, for example, combining your style sheet into one, or as you combine shorter style sheets, so that your browser will have to like make multiple requests, because making multiple requests, your site your browser will, you will have to wait for response from those requests to get your page loaded. Then another thing is to with the file sizes. So if you are using if you have images you want to load on your page, you don't have to like load the big size image to your user. So you can as well reduce the size of the image to the exact size that you need to show to your user. So maybe, for example, you have to show an image that will have like a size of 200 pixels. Then you have a 25 megabyte image loading to your page. That will in turn slow your page. You can as well like optimize, like reduce the size of your image so that your resources get loaded in the shortest possible time. Then the last thing I would like to mention in this optimization tip is to optimize the order in which your critical resources are loaded by prioritizing the downloading critical assets, shortening the critical path length. Then, like I said in my previous explanation in the critical render part, that the first thing that gets loaded in your page is HTML. Then you load your browser loads the CSS and the JavaScript. So this is the order in which you can optimize your page loading. So by the time you have a JavaScript loading before the document object model is set, so it's actually going to block the rendering of your page, or you have your JavaScript loading before your style sheet. So you have to maintain this order so as to keep your website optimized. So what's the benefit of good performance? So reducing the download and render time of a site improves conversion rate and user retention. Then what do we mean by conversion rate? This is the rate at which site visitor perform a measured or desired action. For example, this might be making a purchase, reading an article, or subscribing to a newsletter. So I'm pretty sure that no one will want to wait for a minute before being able to read an article on the website. So that's why you have to, like, okay, not to get your user discouraged, you have to optimize your page so that you get your content loaded to your user as soon as possible. Then in making for e-commerce websites, you should as well optimize your page so that your customers can get transactions done in the shortest possible time. So when a user is well attended to in the shortest possible time, this will encourage them to like revisit your site. But by the time their experience while using your site is poor, so you know what you are trying to say to your customer, that okay, we don't have time for you, that then you can look elsewhere for your purchase. So as you can see on my screen, the website conversion rate, for example, if you have 0.5% conversion rate and you have like 1 million, or like, for example, let me be realistic with what I have on my screen. You have 200,000 users of your website and you have 0.5% conversion rate. That's about 1,000 users being able to actually make a purchase on your site. When you have 2,000 users, look at how large your market size is. And because your site is the performance of your site is very poor, you are only able to make 1,000 of 2,000 people to make a purchase on your site, and that's really poor. So you just throw away your chance of getting more revenue for your solution. Then in conclusion, so web performance is important for accessibility and also for other website metrics that serve the goal of an organization or business. And good or bad website performance correlates powerfully to user experience, as well as the overall effectiveness of the site. This is why you should care about website performance. Thank you for the audience. So I would like to know if my audience has a question for me before I evaluate or ask my own question. So please, if there's anyone that has a question, you can, this is the time for you to ask. Is there any question before I go on to ask my own question?
I think I have a question.
Right.
Well, nothing too serious. The question is, okay, while you are trying to optimize your website or your web app for better performance, you mentioned a few things you need to do to be able to do so. So I just wanted to know, like, okay, what's the difference between, okay, optimizing your website, which is quite obvious, and scaling your website? Does scaling necessarily optimize your website in a way, or does it not?
By performance, so irrespective of the size of your organization, you should, or your solution, you should always ensure that your solution has a high performance. If, for example, everyone knows that website like Facebook, web apps like Facebook has millions of users, and they have we are pretty sure that they have a very large code base to ensure they deliver the solution. But irrespective of that, you should always ensure that your site is performant. Though you might have a large content today, but there's always a way to make things better. You understand? So you might have a single page application with less content, and you have poor performance. And the other thing is that you can have a larger application, because every large application starts from somewhere, you understand? So by the time you want to scale, that's when you have to add some new features and or maybe for a larger company. So you don't prioritize or neglect the fact that the users expect something better from you. You have to always prioritize the performance, because no matter how good your solution is, when it scales, so your user will get discouraged when the experience with the website is very poor. So you can scale. Scaling means to increasing the functionality, or like adding more functionalities to your code. Don't forget about the performance too. So nobody will want to go to Facebook today and try to load page and Facebook should be given a skill that you have to see this number of users and this and that. So that's part of what you have to look to why you are scaling.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Any other questions?
Hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Victor.
Okay, so basically, yeah.
Noise from someone's background. Elias Peter, please can you mute yourself? All right, thank you very much.
Okay, so truth be told, I didn't get the whole part, yeah. But the question that is bothering me is that after all this, to optimize your website, so that the users can have a better experience with the website. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so after following all this process, is there like another way, if after you follow all this process, it's still like users are not really patronizing what you do, or they are not really sticking around, kind of? I don't know if you understand my question.
Can you ask the question? Can you ask again?
Okay. So basically, you've mentioned like the whole reason why users might not like have a better experience with your site, which is the size of the pictures and all. I mean, after following all this process and you have the perfect picture, your site is fast and the whole process has been followed, is there another way that the issues whereby customers or viewers or the audience are not still sticking around and not patronizing your what you sell? Is there another way around it?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. So performance optimization is one of those things that can help your business to grow. And in terms of web application or website, when your business grows, that in turn means you have increasing number of users using your solution. So if you have a very performant website or web application, and maybe, for example, you have an e-commerce website, then the price of your service or product is relatively higher than that of your competitors. So so that can in turn send away your potential customers. So it's not only that your app should be performant. So users has this idea of, okay, they have this ideology of okay, weighing teams, weighing their options. So even if your site is very performant and you're relatively to other services, the price of your service is like higher than others. So this can also affect the likelihood of users coming back to your site. Or maybe it's not about the purchase, it's about the service. The service you render is also not good enough. So that can as well affect. Then it's not a solution that can save. Then that's part of what you do. You have to do your market survey very well. So performance of the website is just one thing. There are a lot of other things that can speak to how you're able to attract users to your site. So if somebody did not visit your site, they won't know how performant it is. So you can be hearing about different sites, but it's not the performance that brings users to your site. You understand? It's a combination of a number of things. It's not only performance. So performance speaks when for example, the search engine of my is able to if rank your site higher, then it comes up above other competitors. But even if it comes up, then a lot of other things. If your site is performance and maybe your SEO is maybe you don't have a keyword to attract people to your site, or a lot of other things can affect user behavior with your site. So, but take note that performance is not enough. So there's a lot of other things. So do your survey well to know what exactly your customers need. So, but performance is not something you have to neglect. So that's just my brief on that.
Okay, thank you.
Can I add something?
Yes, thank you.
To what you said? What I've also come to understand over the years is that you can have a very good website or a very good application, but yet it's not meeting the need. And that's Mr. Inka just pointed out that what is that particular thing that you're actually meeting? What is that particular thing that you're actually to be solved? The application actually doing that. Then there are some also that you see some applications that are sketchy. They are.
I can't hear you well though. Is it my network?
Okay, can anyone hear me, please?
Okay, it's now clear now.
It's your network.
Okay. Because I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Okay. Let me put my hands to my mouth. So there are some websites or applications which are sketchy. They are not the UI is quite poor, and you don't to even they are also the way they look so presentable, and it looks fun, and it has a whole lot. Let's take it the way Facebook is now and the way Facebook was then. Even with the way it was, where we have to wait for, let me just say, an hour, to do some things, or YouTube then, for those that just started tech then, they said they could do for 2 hours just to browse, and yet they were still enjoying it. Why? Because it was meeting their need, even though the performance is poor. So that's what I just want to add. There are various reasons why, some people or some customers can decide not to use an application, even when its performance is at its peak. Thank you.
Okay, can I ask a question, sir, Mr. Hassan?
Yes, you can.
Okay, sorry, can we say, how about,
this should be the last question, sorry. We already have 5 minutes to stay.
can internet dependence be a disadvantage to web performance? Internet dependency.
Yes, yes. That's part of why we have some of the tools that you can use to test the performance of your site. So if you use, for example, the Firefox dev tool, now you can try to okay, change some of the parameters um, changing to see how your page loads in the 2G net from the 2G network, 3G network, or 4G. So with that, you'll be able to know what's your, maybe for example, you are using 4G, then you want to know what the performance of your site is in 3G. Somebody accessing your site with the 3G network or 2G network. So the network to speak a lot about performance too. So the site can be well performant, but maybe you're in a remote area where you only have access to the 2G. So this is what to consider to as a developer. So most of the users of your site might not be people that have a very strong network. So you should consider them too when you want to improve the performance of your site.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. So is there any other question before I ask my question? Okay, all right. So I've spoken about performance in this presentation. So I would like to ask my audience. So this presentation is also something that you are my judge in this case now, as the user will be the judge in the use of any website. So what's my performance in this presentation? I want to know the passive performance now.
Is it on a scale or on what basis?
I've spoken about passive performance and measured performance. So performance, that's what I want to bring out. So performance based on user judgment, not based on any metric. So that's what I want to know.
Okay, you mean on your performance in this situation, right?
Yes, because we spoke about passive performance.
Right. Okay, can I make it on a scale of 1 to 10 or something?
Yes, depending on what you choose to, because there's no standard when you mean passive performance. So it depends on the user's standard.
Okay. Oh, well, as I would love every other presentation.
That's what I asked you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I said that as I would love every other presentation, right? I would want to rate this 8 out of 10.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. So I would like somebody else to rate, because with passive performance, you can't judge with someone's rating. So that's how you rate people's performance.
Okay.
Their web application.
So, basically, what you said, sir, from the passive performance, basically is how a user accepts something that is done, or how he sees the application or the thing he's actually going for. So to me, if I'm to rate the performance, I'll rate plus your network, plus everything that happened as far as this session is concerned, I'll rate 7. Yes, on your own network, there were times that you were off. It could piss somebody off, if it's live recording. And so personally, you are my boss, but personally, you have to rate you. I would say 7, because network was considered. That was why I asked if internet dependency is a problem to no matter how good the application is. And then thank God for you that you did justice to that. So based on it, on their own personality, performance, and everything is great. But the connectivities, the whole thing, even including Beacon, because we also had issues as an organization that, okay, we had network issues sometimes. So to me, I'll rate 7% by 7. That's my own acceptance of today's program.
Interesting.
So I believe we will have learned something about performance in this presentation. So I'm handing over to the service owner, Benjamin.
Well, thank you very much, sir, for that presentation. I think we've come to the end. It's exactly 9:45. That was wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I don't think we have any questions for today. Mr. Peter, tomorrow we await you. You still there?
Yeah, sure.